Good morning, friends. Let's go today to 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 to 16. We read, "Therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, since it is written, 'You shall be holy, for I am holy.'" This passage really gives us much needed clarification on the whole grace versus works thing that we've been touching on for some time now. Because we talk so much about grace, being saved by grace, and that we can't earn our salvation and all. But then we always add that caveat of, but don't abuse the grace of God by indulging in sin. And on the flip side, we don't want to just start by hammering, don't sin, don't sin, don't sin all the time, because that makes it seem like we can earn our salvation when of course we know we can't. Well, Peter gives us a very helpful ordering to all this, plus a vital reminder of what the essential issue is. First, he says to set your hope fully on the grace of God. So that puts first things first. Grace is front and center. But then he says, as obedient children, we ought to do something. And the order of these two things is crucial because we have grace first. Then the recognition that we are children of God, and you don't get to be children of God unless you've already been saved by his grace. So yes, Peter is absolutely going to tell us what we ought to do, but that doing has nothing to do with achieving salvation, but everything to do with how we live once we've been saved. So, as obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy. First off, while we must always keep in mind that God has saved us by his grace, we must also recognize that he has saved us for a purpose. And a huge part of that purpose is that we would be holy. His grace is made all the clearer when our sin reveals itself, and yet he loves us and saves us anyway, but he didn't save us for the purpose of allowing that sin to run rampant. He saved us that we would be holy. Why? Because he is holy. We are his children. He is our Father, and our Father wants us to follow in his footsteps. You shall be holy, for I am holy. What a wonderful statement of love and, yes, expectation. A father who loves his children has expectations for them. A father who provides for his children has expectations for them. A father who desires the best for his children has expectations of them. And God, as the perfect Father, has perfect expectations for us, his imperfect children. That we would be obedient children. Again, not perfect children, that will come much later, but in the meantime, still obedient children. As I've tried to impress upon my own children, obedience to God yields natural blessings that produce life and joy and goodness and happiness. And in the same way, disobedience to God might produce a facsimile of satisfaction for a time, but it will lead to great sorrow far sooner than you think. And I think one thing we have trouble with in this whole grace versus works balancing act is the fear that if we say, obey and you will be blessed, then that might be perceived as a manipulation to get people to do what we want them to do. Or perhaps even worse, that actual experience might prove us wrong. Or perhaps we don't want people to come to God and be obedient for the wrong reasons and therefore be proven fraudulent in the end. And I've had all those fears before. But I'm coming to understand that whatever the scriptures say, and we should go with it. Here in 1 Peter, Peter is making it very clear that we ought to be obedient to the Father. So, let's be obedient. Let's just take it at face value, and having already been saved by grace, let us now obey, trusting the Lord to take care of the rest. And even then, it's not like the scriptures leave us ignorant as to the results of obedience. Just read Leviticus chapter 26, the first part especially, and listen into the promises of blessing that God gives to the nation of Israel if only they would be obedient to him. Yes, God will bless his people when they obey. It may not always be in the manner we anticipate or in the timing we expect, but we will be blessed and we can count on it. And as a closing thought, this makes the whole situation a little clearer because the command in our minds shouldn't be so much don't sin, don't do this, don't do that. The thought really should be, and this makes the whole issue one of, be holy. Rather than don't, The thought should be do what is righteous, do what is holy. Instead of just saying, don't do this thing, and it leaves an empty void, and then we do other things we shouldn't do because nothing has filled the void. No, remove the bad thing, but then immediately replace it with the good thing. Instead of all the lists of the don'ts, let's indulge ourselves in God's lists of do's, because that's where the goodness of God really is anyway. The blessing, the life, the joy. Yes, our sinful nature doesn't want to believe it, but it is true. Do what the Lord has called you to do. Be holy, and there is blessing there. We are saved by the grace of God. Praise the Lord. Let's live as obedient children, and let us be holy. Have a good and godly day, my friends. And if the Lord wills, I will see you tomorrow.